Hi, Rory. I want to welcome you to this webinar tonight, our third SABAP2 webinar. It's a follow-up on the previous webinar where we talked about logging your data on BirdLasser. But today we're going to talk about how to log your data and submit your data to SABAP2. So welcome, and I hope that you will find our webinar tonight of value. We have a very simple agenda today. We are, after this introduction, going directly to the BirdLasser presentation by Henk Nel. And so please remember, we've got a chat room, and in a chat room, you are more than welcome to post questions. And we have Sanjay Rao from the FITS and Cornelis Creer from BirdLasser, and they will respond to questions that you pose within the chat room. So please feel free to post questions and comments in the chat room. Just again, we're talking about BirdLasser today. So if you want more information about BirdLasser, please visit the website, www.birdlasser.com, or email support@birdlasser.com if you have any questions. There's also an online help file on the website with the address there. So please have a look if you've got any questions. Maybe before you email Henk, have a look and see if you can find the answer on their website. Right, so we are now going directly over to the live demonstration. So I'm going to connect my phone to the laptop, and Henk is then going to explain how we log and submit our data, and I will follow along on my phone. Right. Henk, thank you very much for joining us for our second BirdLasser webinar. Really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Ernst, and thanks for you guys as well. Hi, everybody.
Right, Henk, last time we explained the settings, what settings to set up for BirdLasser in general, the language settings, etc. But is there any settings that we need to set for atlasing?
Yes. So let's navigate to the settings menu. And then there's a section called atlasing in iOS. It's also termed atlasing. Most important here is to capture your observer number. Very important, that observer number is what you get when you register on SABAP2's website. You can also opt to enter your name as Ernst did there, Ernst Retief. And then most important, if you're going to use BirdLasser primarily as an atlasing app, make sure to put your atlasing on by default. Ernst is indicating there on Android how to do it. On iOS, there's a toggle switch that says atlasing on by default. What this means is, if you were to create a new trip card, it would automatically set that trip card in Atlas mode, taking into consideration the Atlas protocol. If you switch it off, then having trip cards created will not have you in Atlas mode. The other settings there, the only other one that's worth mentioning is the notification one. What BirdLasser does is if you cross boundaries into another pentad, it will either vibrate or give an audible note to inform you that you've now crossed the boundary and you've now entered a new pentad. Quite nice if you're driving along the car and you want to be notified when you're in a new pentad. I think that is it, Ernst.
All right, thanks, Henk. So that's easy. So you just enter your observer number that you get after you've registered, and you set atlasing mode on, and that's it. And then you can start atlasing. So I've already created a trip card called Webinar, as we explained in the last workshop. So Henk, let's just chat about the map view and what we can see on the map as it is now.
So this is the normal default map view as presented by Google Maps. For those of you on iPhone, you'll have Apple Maps. Looks very similar. What you'll see is, first of all, is the pentad boundaries, those red lines, red squares on your screen. You can quite easily see where you are within these pentads. If you do lose yourself in this map by scrolling away. On Android, there's that icon in the top right-hand corner. By tapping on that, it'll bring you back to the blue dot, which indicates where you are right now. On iOS, it's either a red or a green dot, depending on how you've set your BirdLasser up. Now, in iOS, there's no button to click and it'll bring you back to where you are. You need to zoom out quite far out until you see that button, where you go, the dot, and then zoom back in to where you find yourself. Something else that's quite interesting on that screen regarding the map, is in the bottom right-hand corner, there's a little gear icon. So if you click on that gear icon, it'll give you an option to have a different display. There's the hybrid one, and it gives you a satellite with the street view. Now, what's nice about this view is the fact that you can see landmarks, geographical landmarks. So what's important in atlasing is to try and visit as many different types of habitats. So if we look at where Ernst is scrolling there, you can see, oh, look at that, there's the botanical gardens. May very well get some different species from the ones in the gardens. There's some farmlands, a bit of grass there. Go get the kiwit. Maybe a mountain somewhere, there's a stream. And what's nice is you can see all these different landmarks. There's a mountain ridge in your pentad, giving you the opportunity to go and get as many different species on this trip card. And then we're back in the normal view.
All right, Henk, so that is really easy. As atlases know that for full protocol card, the challenge is to get an extensive species list. In order to do that, you need to visit all the available habitats. And through these maps, you can actually identify all the main habitats: water, wetlands, mountains, bush area, whatever. And then actually use these maps to get to those areas and go and atlas there.
Yeah, because it keeps you track of that blue dot, keeps track of exactly where you are at any given point in time. You can also use the map to get you where you need to be. You don't need to leave the BirdLasser app.
That's right. All right, then. So let's use an example. Let's say we want to go to Mapungubwe National Park the coming weekend, and we want to go and atlas there, and we want to find out which are the pentads there. How can we do that? To use the app to determine what the pentads are.
Well, I would first open BirdLasser, go into this view, and then start zooming out like you're doing now. So you get a bigger view, and then slowly but surely start moving to the north where we know Mapungubwe is. And there we go. There with the border of Botswana and South Africa and Zim. Start going in, and maybe a little bit more. You can start seeing the red squares spanning Mapungubwe National Park. Now, by the use of your finger and just tapping on that square, inside the square, you see the pentad number. On an iPhone, you need to take your finger and press it down for about a second, and a pin will appear with the pentad number just above it. Now, there's a nice feature in iPhone where once that pin is there with that pop-up with the number, if you tap on that pop-up, it will open the SABAP2 page at exactly that pentad, where that pentad details are. Now what's nice is you've established where Mapungubwe is, you know what the pentad is. You can change it to hybrid view as you've done now. You can also see the different habitats. You can plan in your next holiday to go and do those 3 main pentads spanning Mapungubwe.
All right, Henk, so that's so easy. If you go to Kruger, you just zoom out the map and go to, scroll to Kruger, and you can get your pentads for Kruger or for any area that you're going to visit. It's as easy as that to identify the pentads where you're going to atlas and so on. So it's really, really easy.
Yeah, and what's nice about that is you can use those pentad numbers, go to the SABAP site, and maybe see which of the neighboring pentads haven't been atlased in a while. Maybe you get a annual virgin pentad, and nice to get some data for that pentad into the system.
All right, Henk, using the apps, does it use data? Do you need data?
When you're in this map view, yes, you definitely need data. Those apps are not all stored on your, or maps are not stored on your phone. So what Google Maps does in the background, as you start zooming in and out and scrolling to other parts, is it continuously downloads those apps. And the ones that's in hybrid view, where you can see the geographical landmarks, that satellite view one, that's quite data intensive. So just be mindful of that. Should you go into areas where you do not have proper cell phone reception, or maybe you don't have a data connection on the cellular network, there are ways of downloading these maps to your phone while you're at home on Wi-Fi and before you go out into the sticks. Please contact us at support@birdlasser.com for more instructions on how to get the maps downloaded onto your phone. Comes in very useful when you go on birding trips into Mozambique or Botswana, in areas where there's low cell reception, or it's just expensive to do it because you're in a different country. So quite useful feature there offered by Google Maps.
So let's say we here at your home, we started atlasing. So let's just, shall we log a few birds? What are the usually first birds that you see here?
The Dulce fishing owl at my swimming pool. Let's go with the grey go-away bird, AWA.
So let's say we've seen a grey go-away bird. All right, so let's go to list view and immediately show what has happened now.
So we now in the list view. So there's the top there's a heading. It gives you 26052755, which is the Pentat's name. To the right, it's 14th of August. It's day 1. Remember, you can atlas for up to 5 days. So just below it tells you it's 1 of 5 days. Then between the date and 1 of 5 days, it gives you a reading, 36 minutes. This is how long Ernst and I have been in this Pentat since we've created this list. So it tells us we've been in this Pentat 63 minutes. What is very interesting to note here is we've only started atlasing now. So although we've been in the Pentat for 36 minutes, just notice that we've only atlased for about 2 minutes so far. So don't confuse that timer with the amount of time you've atlased. That's just an indication of how long you've been in the Pentat.
Right, Henk, I think we'll come back to the issue about the time a little bit later on. I'm just going to log a few birds here just out of interest. So
did you log another away bird yet? Because you forgot you logged it earlier today. So you log it again.
All right, so explain to...
So what you can see there, the grey go-away bird, the first one has a number 1. It was the first species you observed and logged. And what so often happens after 2 hours or even 5 days of atlasing the same Pentat, you tend to forget what you've logged and what you haven't. Now, the thing we've built into BirdLasser is that you should not worry about that. You can log grey go-away bird again. That grey go-away bird, you'll notice, won't have a number next to it. It's indicative of it being a duplicate. So when we submit this to SABAP, that second record of grey go-away bird will not be submitted to SABAP. So I tell people, if you can't remember if you've logged something or not, just log it again. It takes about 3 seconds to log a bird. So the app will take care of duplicates. Every other bird that's unique for this list will get a number. And there we go. We've logged 10 species. As you can see just below the name, the number of the Pentat, it says 10 species, but 11 observations.
For we've logged grey go-away bird twice. So that's why it's 11 observations, but 10 species. All right.
Just interestingly enough, in the bottom left-hand corner where it states the GPS range, you'll note it's now up to 19 meters. And the reason for it being that we're inside a house, so clearly our GPS signal reception to the cell phone is not that great. So be aware that if you are close to a boundary, a Pentat boundary, and you were to log with a 19-meter accuracy, that pin, that location may very well be in another Pentat, although you are physically not in that Pentat. The accuracy is quite bad. It often gets to 30, 50 meters or even a few kilometers. That's when you know there's a problem with the phone's reception. But just be aware of that. If you get close to boundaries and the range accuracy is off by a few meters, it may very well happen that you log something in the incorrect pentat.
All right, Henk. So I've just now on the map logged a bird in another pentat. So we therefore now have 2 pentats named there. All right.
So yeah, you've entered the second pentat and you've logged the barred outlet there. And now you can see it shows you both of them. Now what's nice on the Android version of BirdLasser, you can collapse and expand those. So you can have a nice summary view of all the pentats. And yeah, it's just collapsed it now, and there's expanded it, and you can see what's inside. And it's just while we're looking at those in that view right there, just wherever you see these 3 little dots on the right hand side, that's a menu. So there you can see what you can do on the whole trip card. Now I often have people that contact me and say, I've deleted my trip card accidentally. So please be aware that that's where it happens. You click there and then you suddenly delete it. Okay. By the way, a single tap won't delete it. It will ask you, are you sure you want to delete? And then you have to say yes again before it happens. Okay, but just be aware that that's where it happens. If you expand on one of those trip cards,
sorry.
Let's go to a species.
Sorry, just a moment.
So let's go to Laughing Dove and click on the 3 dots. As explained in the previous webinar, here you get all the information about this specific observation. This is where you can go and change the name. You've accidentally logged Laughing Dove. You wanted to log Red-Eye Dove. This is where you go and you change it if you need to change it. It's also here where you can change the location of that species. If you are quite pedantic about exactly where you saw it, so although I'm standing here in my garden logging something, you can move that because you saw it a kilometer away through your scope and you can still move it. Luckily, it's still in the same pentat, so in terms of SABAP data, there's no difference.
I think it's a nice feature that it does shows the pentat boundaries here.
Yes.
So if you want to lock the bird in another pentat for some reason, you're standing here, but the bird might be, you know, and you want to lock it in another pentat, you can, in other words, also move the observation to another pentat, and the app will then recognize that species in the new pentat.
Yeah.
So that's why we've got 2 species now under 260520.
So this is a nice feature for those of you that do roadside birding and or atlasing, and there's private land, you can't access that other pentat that so desperately needs data. So you stand next to the road and you know the pentat starts just 5 meters from the road, or you're in a copy and you look down at the coast and you would like to atlas that pentat. You're standing in this pentat, but you can still log species in that other pentat. And this is how you would do it. You'd first log it in this pentat and then you move it across into the other pentat.
So there's the bird that I've now moved to the pentat next door.
Yes.
The Laughing Dove is now in that pentat and not in the one that we are sitting in now. So, all right, and if we click on the pentat now.
So now if I click on the pentat and I tap it, not only does it show the number, it also gives me a quick summary of what I've seen in the number. It gives me the time and then 910. 9 species, 10 records.
10 observations.
Yeah.
All right. And that is how easy it is to lock the bird. So the app, the protocol says that you need to order, lock the birds in the order that you see them. The app does that automatically. You count from one app.
With your last sighting
at the top.
At
the top, that's correct. It records it within the pentat. So if you move over the boundary of the pentat, it will automatically create a new pentat list. And it will stop the time and it will start the time again in the new pentat, etc.
Correct.
So that is basically all you need to know in order to log.
What is important though is if you do move over to another pentat, is to have your phone open with BirdLasser in the foreground as if you're using it, so that it immediately registers when you're moving across that boundary. So the timer for the one can stop and the timer for the other can start. It's just important to know.
So I know sometimes my phone goes to sleep mode, and if you then move over the boundary, then the phone won't know that you've been in the new pentat. So the
time you spent in the new pentat gets counted towards the previous one.
Yeah. So that is important to remember. All right, but that's really how easy it is to, on the app, you got the maps, you can identify the habitats, you can see exactly where you are with the blue dot. You can see even the roads that you need to travel. The species are recorded in the order that you see. The time is being tracked. It's all the things that you need to know in order to submit a full protocol atlas card. As easy as that. All right, so let's move on and let's talk about submitting your data. Now, and before I do that, just again explain to people the difference between BirdLasser and SABAP2, the Southern African Bird Atlas project, that it's two totally different projects.
So, SABAP2 is, I'm going to say it's probably still owned and operated by the University of Cape Town, obviously with partnership with BirdLife and Sunbee. And it's something that started off as their initiative in, let's say, assisting conservation and research, and anyone else that would like to do any form of statistical analysis on bird distribution and what else? Anything birding related, suppose. And it obviously started here in Southern Africa, meaning Namibia, Botswana, Zim, and then everything south and southern parts of Mozambique. Whereas BirdLasser was a project, few guys, myself and a few friends that were quite active birders and atlases, and we just wanted a nice tool specifically for us and on iPhones. So we created this company and we developed this app. And the app was just actually to log birds, but we said, you know what, to penetrate the market, let's give the people something they want, and therefore we also implemented the atlasing protocol in the app. Hence, you can use the BirdLasser for normal just birding, logging what you see, or you can specifically change it into a mode where you say, I want to atlas and submit my data to BirdMap or to SABAP.
All right, but the important thing for me is that it's two total different entities. The one project is managed by the FITS, and BirdLasser is managed by you guys. Yeah. And I think people need to realize that if they've got queries about BirdLasser, let's say the app is not working or they've deleted the card or something like that, then they must contact you. But if there are queries about out-of-range forms and SABAP2 related issues, then that queries must be submitted to the team that manages SABAP2. So there's email address, sabap2@birdlife.org.za, and Sanjo and myself and Michael Brooks receive that queries, and we will then respond to those queries. But people need to understand that SABAP2 and BirdLasser are two total different projects. And therefore, you also need to submit your data. There's a formal submission process to submit your data to SABAP2.
Yeah, I just want to add to this the fact that we're completely different entities. I often get people that says, but I've registered with my Gmail email address at SABAP, and on BirdLasser I use my Yahoo email address, and maybe that's what's not working. That's not a reason why something is not working. It's two completely different systems. You can register with two different emails. There is no correlation between the two. The only link between BirdLasser and SABAP is your observation number that you save in BirdLasser. That's the only thing that needs to be the same. So when you, from in BirdLasser, submit your data to SABAP, we send that your observation with, and that's how they know who you are. It's not your name, it's not your email address, it's your observer number. It's all you need to know.
All right.
Okay, so Ernst, I'm glad you raised the issue with support issues. I often get tagged in Facebook. Somebody complained about something that happened in the BirdLasser app, but they're posting on SABAP2's Facebook group. I don't continuously check that, so I'm blissfully unaware of the complaint or the issue being experienced. Fortunately, there are other people that notice and then tag me in Facebook. Most of you might know that I'm not very active on Facebook, so I don't necessarily able to react immediately. However, if you would have logged it on BirdLasser's Facebook page, I do get an email as well, and I tend to then immediately respond to it. Or you connect to us on Facebook Messenger, or just support@birdlasser.com. So please make a differentiation between the two entities, and depending on what your issue is, refer it to the right crowd. Okay.
All right, so how do we submit data to SABAP2? What do we do?
Okay, let's look at that 2605, 2755. So in that line, with that heading, to the far right, you've got your three dots, and you've tapped on it, and it's simple as submit to BirdMap. Now, I just need to quickly, for iPhone users, a little bit different. iPhone users, you look at your card, there's the 3 dots at the right at the top. When you click at that, there's a button called Share. You click Share, and it will give you a lot of apps you can share your data with. One of them would say BirdMap. Click on that BirdMap, and they'll give you a list of Atlas cards that are ready to get submitted. Once you click on that one of those cards, you'll see what Ernst is seeing now on his screen. Well, more or less, the details are the same. Now, at this point in time, Ernst, you've opened up the card. The most important thing you need to note is the status of the card, the protocol. It is always ad hoc when you come into this view, always. And the reason for it is very simple. There is no ways this app can determine whether you've done full or ad hoc protocol. We do a best guesstimate, but it's by no means accurate. So what we've decided with talking to Professor Les Underhill back in the days when we started the app, we said we'll always default to ad hoc. To leave the onus on the user to say, you know what, I'm comfortable that I've atlased 2 hours, comfortable that I've visited at least 2 or 3 habitats. Therefore, I'm happy to set this to full protocol. Okay. Other things of interest in there, you'll see your observer numbers displays, Atlas times there. We'll talk about that now, but your name is there. You can also capture additional observers. If Ernst knows my number, or if that's somebody else's number, but he types in somebody else's number, they will, on the system, on SABAP system, register as an additional observer. I think you can go up to 3 additional observers. Ernst is saying there, well, you know what, I atlased at night, and I also visited all the habitats. So he's indicating that he's done all that. Okay. Right at the bottom, it's also just to quickly, it shows you a unique species in this card, and it also shows you the time spent in Pentad. Okay.
All right, then. So let's quickly chat about that. It seems to us on the queries that we get that there's a little bit of people do not understand the difference between Atlas time and time in Pentad. Here's actually a nice example. It says that we've been 49 minutes in this Pentad, but the Atlas time is only 10 minutes. And that's actually correct. We've actually only Atlas 10 minutes. A part of that 49 minutes, we ate pizza.
Yeah.
And that is, but maybe just explain the difference.
Yeah, okay, so the timer you see on the front screen while you're atlasing, and the one that's there right at the bottom that says time in Pentad is exactly that. It's the time you spent in the Pentad. Again, best effort. We only know, therefore can only run this timer if we know you are in the Pentad. So if your phone is off and is on standby and you move into this Pentad, there's no ways for us to know it, so that timer will not increase. It will not start running. If you have the app open, you're in this Pentad, that timer will increase minute by minute. So it shows me how much time I spent in the Pentad. Now, as Ernst explained, when we started in this Pentad, we didn't do any birding. We only started birding while we were on this webinar. So that's why it says 49 minutes. However, we logged our first record about 10, 12 minutes ago. That means the fact that it's showing that we atlased for 10 minutes. So roughly what it does, it takes your last record minus your first record, and it'll tell you how much time it is. But here's where things become interesting. The app is clever enough to know, or we believe that we've put in the right algorithms in place that will work out when you are not birding. Now, here's the problem. You can truly not be birding because you've went out, birded for 10 minutes, got into your car because it started raining, sitting in your car and waiting for the rain to stop for 15 minutes, then got out of your car and continued birding again after the rain stopped. For us and for the app to know that you have stopped birding, you have to not log anything. So if you haven't logged anything, we assume you weren't birding. Okay. However, let's say you got into your car and you decide, I'm just going to sit there, but I'm still going to bird. I'm still going to look out of the window, and whatever comes by, if it's new, I'm going to log it. But you know what? You at Spitskoppe, middle of the day, there is nothing else flying by, although you are atlasing. Now, you can sit there probably for a good 2 or 3 hours and not see anything new. The app will definitely think that you have not been atlasing, although you have been atlasing. So what I tell people under those conditions, specifically the Namibian atlases, tell the app you are atlasing by logging something. Take one of the species you've seen before, maybe it did by chance fly by, in other words, it's a duplicate. Do go and log that pied crow again. Remember, the app will not send in the duplicate, no need to worry about it, but at least by keep on logging, you tell the app, listen here, I am still busy, just note that I'm still busy, and the app will add that time to the overall time. Okay, so what's important is that atlas time is a best effort estimate by the app to say how much time you spent atlasing. Now, I have said it, and it's as per that little disclaimer just below that. Obviously, it can make a mistake. And the mistake is if you have not told it, listen here, I'm busy birding. Okay. It won't know of any better, and then it counts dead time as no birding time. Very important. However, let's say you forgot to log those additional duplicate species to tell the app you're busy. You have spent 3 hours there, but all your species is in the first hour. Now the question is, can I fix it? That little dot there says you can fix it. So what Ernst has done is he's moved to the second screen. He's just slide across. On iPhone, it's right at the bottom. And here you'll see it gives the species breakdown per hour. And what Ernst is doing is he's saying, you know what? I can, by looking at the date and time for each of my records, I can see when and where I've logged it. So I'm comfortable seeing, oh, you know what, the first 5 species was in the first hour. Let me move the hour. Yeah, it's very jittery to move that fast. So you can see the hour, and you can move the hour 2 line. You can see now what Ernst has done is he's placed it 1 higher. Now there's 1, 2, 3, 4 species in the first hour. And you can move it up or down again by adding, so instead of moving the species in the hour, you move the hour boundary. And by doing that, you place the correct species in the correct hour. So what we see, if you look at SABAP2 data, is we often see somebody claiming that they've spent 2 hours birding. It's a full protocol card. If you go look at the details of the card, you see 35 species in the first hour and nothing in the second hour. Now, this person most probably did do 2 hours birding. There's no denying that. However, this person probably did not see any new species in the second hour. Or he or she did see species in the second hour, but there were prolonged periods of no species being logged, no records being logged. And then the app thought, well, the person was not atlasing, and then combines it all in the first hour. So it's for those conditions. So it's always important when you're on the screen, just to go look at what your species breakdown per hour looks like. Go in there and have a look. If all your species in the first hour, then there's obviously a problem. The app made a mistake. So the onus is on you to go and move that hour 2 line to where you believe it should be and put the right species in the right hour. So we've given you the opportunity to fix the data before you submit it to SABAP.
So I think to me the important thing for atlases to understand is that you guys have tried to develop something to help us to determine how much time we've spent in the pentat, etc. But eventually it is responsibility of the atlaser to make sure that the data is correct. Like I was in Kruger last week, and I've done a few pentats for 2 hours, 10 minutes, 12, but it tells me I've only been 1 hour, 56 minutes, for instance. I know I've been in there 2 hours, so I've submitted the full protocol card. Yes. So the onus is still on the atlaser to make sure and to keep track of time, but the app tries and help us the best it can to keep track of our time and so on, but eventually the onus is on the atlaser to make sure.
Definitely. And the app gives you the opportunity to make any fixes you need to do quite easily.
Yeah.
This is not an hours exercise to fix the stuff. We've just showed you how quickly you can move the hours around. And it's in any case a nice way of just going through that list and seeing that you haven't made a typo in any of those, and then logging in African Peter instead of an African pipit. And you'll notice those there and you can fix it.
I think also that's very important, for we get a lot of people that say, sorry, I've made a mistake, I've entered the incorrect species. But here's actually your chance to just sit in front of the table, go through the species list. I mean, just by scanning it, you will quickly see, oh, I've typed in pitta instead of pipit or whatever, and correct it here before you submit it. I mean, it's much easier to correct it here than after you've submitted it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So it's the ideal time to just verify all your data in your card and make the fixes. And if it was a full protocol card, to make sure that it adheres to the full protocol the rules. Yeah, but at the end of the day, the app is just, it's there to help you. It's most definitely not. And can't always be 100% correct. Okay. Yeah. Very important to note.
All right, so what I've done here, I've now said I want to submit a full protocol card, but clearly the app thinks it should be an ad hoc card for I've only spent 10 minutes. So there's a warning that tells you that, are you sure it should be a full protocol card? But again, it's not something that you need to be scared of. It's just, you guys have built in the question just to make sure that it should be, that you're sure that it should be a full protocol card. And all that you say then is yes, that it is a full protocol card and you submit it as a full protocol card.
And can we go back to the screen? We've got somebody that's asked us to just show how you change those hours. So Peter, okay, I just want to go back to the card. This is the screen you see when you say submit. So what I do is I press my finger down and I slide to the left and I get the list of species. So on the screen, you'll see the hour 1, 5 species, and then hour 2, 6 species. So now let's say I go through this list and I look at the minutes, and I note, you know what, clearly African green pigeon could not have been in the first hour. So what I do is I click on the little horizontal bars next to species. I press down and I drag it up where I want it, and then I depress my finger. Is that clear, Peter? Have I explained it good enough? Have you tried it on your phone?
Android, right?
Okay, so what Ernst is doing there is pressing down on the. Okay, Peter says yes, he's got it.
Right.
Okay, all the rest of you have also got it now.
All right, fantastic. All right, so this is how easy it is to access using BirdLasser. You create a trip card, you make sure that atlasing mode is on, your pen badge is on there.
Well, we haven't submitted it yet.
Yeah, all right. I don't want to press the right button, for then I'm going to send a lot of rubbish to I'm going to get a lot of out of range forms.
Yes, but what we're saying, right at the top right-hand corner, there's a little pass mark to say, okay, I am happy now. When you click that little pass mark, it will send an email with this data attached to it, and it will go all the way to SABAP2.
So what we can do is I can show them my card. So what happens if you submitted your data, what it looks like. So let's just open this one. So it then shows submitted. So don't worry about the 0 hours, 0 minutes. I've logged this data on a separate phone. But as soon as I've submitted these data as full protocol cards or as ad hoc protocol cards, it shows that I've submitted the data to SABAP2.
But you know what's interesting here is that 0 hour, 0 minute. We often get people asking about that. So let's just quickly talk about it. I'm going to use the example of what we're seeing there. Let's go with the second one from the top, the one that says 6 August 2400 3140. So I'm looking at that one, and it's got the 56 species, 60 observations. Now clearly it could not have been 0 hours, 0 minutes. But what Ernst just mentioned is he said, you know what, okay, he's logged onto 2 different phones with BirdLasser, so he logs on 2 different phones. Now what does not happen is if you're on another phone, most of your data gets synchronized with that other phone. One of the things we do not synchronize is the timer. So once you've transferred onto another phone, or let's say you've upgraded, you've got a new phone, you go into historical data, all those hours will reset to 0 because we don't save it. Okay, which means we can't restore it back and show you on another device. So it does happen. I mean, if some of you have had problems with the app, then what you typically do is you delete the app, you reinstall it, What you have noticed that all your data comes back because it gets saved on our servers and restores automatically. However, the timer does not get saved, therefore doesn't get restored. Hence, it shows up as 0 hours, 0 minutes. Okay.
All right, Henk, we're running out of time. Is there any other queries in the chat box that you can see that we need to handle?
See, Cornelis is addressing something. If there's anybody else that wants to have a quick question, maybe someone on iPhone that did not get an opportunity to see how it works on iPhone. I hope those iPhone users out there have seen what we've done. If you tap on the map and the pen tab number comes up and you click on that little call out, it directs you to the SABAP website and you can immediately see the details there, which is quite a nice one. Just checking anything else. Werner is asking Cornelis, I have experienced the same. Okay, somebody wrote an essay.
All right.
Okay.
All right, Henk, I think we're going to end the webinar here, but I'm going to keep it open for a while. So if people want still to type in questions in the chat box, they are more than welcome to do so, and we will try and answer the best we can. So for another 5 minutes or so, we will keep the webinar open, and people can continue to post comments. Also, if you've got ideas of future webinars, if you've got comments on this webinar, please let us know if you found it of value. We will also, again, load this on the YouTube channel within the next 48 hours or so. So please, if you know of people that might be interested to learn about how to submit their data, you can refer them to this webinar. So Henk, anything else from your side?
No, I think we'll stay on for a few more minutes. If there are questions coming in, I see Cornelis is fielding some questions. I'll also answer some questions.
Fantastic.
Shelef, I'm glad you enjoyed the webinar. Thank you so much for your comment.
Henk, and I would just like to thank you. I mean, this app has made atlasing so much easier. I know the first workshops I did, we had these big 1 to 50,000 maps that we had to drive around, and it was really difficult to atlas. But this has made it so much easier. People just need to spend a few minutes to learn how, and it just adds so much fun and value to our atlasing. So thank you very much for developing this. We really appreciate it.
Okay. Thanks, and thanks for you guys' support as well. Sanjay, you behind the scenes, thanks so much for your help as well. And so I see there are more questions that's coming in. We can close off the audio session, and then I'll start answering some questions.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the evening and enjoy your atlasing. And please let us have all those atlas cards as soon as possible. Thank you very much.